Hello and welcome to Alive and Composing, the wonderful world of Innova, with today's guest, MC Mike Maguire. Hi Mike, can you state your name for the record?
My name's... I should clear my throat first. My name's Mike Maguire, or MC Maguire, Michael Clark Maguire.
Do you prefer MC? Does that sound more hip and musical or professional?
Sounds kind of pretentious, but I like it.
That's good, because we're trying to zero in on all the possible connections to why you make the music that you make and why no one else could ever make such a thing. Just off the bat, do you have any ideas about how you are like your music?
Oh, that's a trick question.
Okay.
Getting back to the MC thing, though, I come by MC legitimately because those are actually my names. And because my music is a lot of sampling and stuff, it sort of vaguely relates to that world.
All right.
The MC world, yeah.
Well, you're absolved. Don't worry. It does sound legit and cool.
I was looking for absolution.
Now, we ask this of all Innova composers. We're doing a long-term study of what kind of pets people have. Cats, dogs, or none, or other.
I have no pets, but it's funny you asked. I had cat stew today.
You had a cat stew?
Yes, it was excellent.
Okay.
I'm joking. No, I don't have any animals.
All right. That in itself tells us something about your perambulatory nature in life as you move around and try and keep your studio clean.
Yeah.
After a hard day, and I know you have hard days, surrounded by samples and big mixing desks, how do you unwind? How do you spoil yourself? How do you regenerate your enthusiasm for life?
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you.
All right, that's even more intriguing than the MC one.
No, I can't tell you.
This is another prepared question, but you can ignore it too. If you weren't making music as a career, what might you be doing?
That's been a problem with my whole life because really all I can do is make music. And music is a kind of curse. So, I don't really know. Maybe politics? I don't know.
Is there something about the way in which your art changes the world, that politics also changes the world, or is that kind of grist for the mill?
No, that's a very good... yeah, it's about world domination. No, I'm joking. Yeah, it's about influencing the course of the Western civilization.
Which I happen to know is absolutely some of the ideas that your music is embedded in. And would you like to kind of illustrate some of the politics of your music? Because it sounds like no other.
No, there's no politics in my music. But I mean, there's a certain amount of megalomania, maybe. But that's a form of politics.
Well, there's certainly an air of inclusivity, not just of peoples and things around the world right now, but like the whole history of recorded music and written music and sounding music, and you're kind of integrating those into some kind of idealized whole for a while. Yes. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it is about trying to find a. What is it? You know, when they look for scientists, they look for
a unified field theory.
Yeah, whatever that is. You know, yeah, you want to find a similar kind of DNA in everything, and then you want to reduce it all to that DNA, or reduce it all to a Fibonacci series, or reduce everything to. But by doing that, also you can't throw anything out, so you still have to include everything to show that you're actually. Including everything.
And have you found a double helix that kind of helps you navigate through all of that?
I did that off the diving board today. I don't know what a double.
Oh, it's one of those kind of unifying features of sudden of life, actually.
Yeah, but isn't a Fibonacci? It's also retrograde at the same time. Is that a double helix?
Oh, that's very clever. That's way beyond me.
Okay.
But no, I was thinking that the fact that you have such a vast array of samples in your memory banks and the ones that you select and why you select them and how you juxtapose them suggest that you're doing so for a very, very good reason.
Yeah, it's mostly all. I mean, it's actually very traditional music. It's nothing. I'm not doing anything new. It's it's all about. It's about structure, about having sort of your ideas about concept. Your ideas about structuring the music is you have a certain concept, and then you put that concept in some kind of mathematical formula, and usually that consists of using the numbers of 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, which is basically that's what music is all about, or some kind of reduction of that. And then making structures. And then once you make the structures, you apply musicality or some kind of intuitiveness or something to make it more musical or more palatable.
How do you think your music has changed since you were a wee young strapping lad? Before the days of, or in the early days of sampling, perhaps?
It actually hasn't changed. I mean, people insist I'm still running the same piece over and over again. So, but then maybe you could say that about Phil Glass or, I don't know, a lot of other composers. I mean, some composers, they tend to stay in one style, and others, let's say someone like Ligeti or something, his style was always changing and evolving. So I can't say I've really changed dramatically. I mean, all I hope to do is improve on what I started 25 years ago.
So while the structures may be similar, I'm sure the technology has changed. What did some of your early compositions sound like? Were they as dense and overwhelming and immersive?
Well, I mean, none of that stuff is... I don't do any of those things on purpose. It comes out that way. But yes, they were equally that way, I would say, from about the mid-'80s. And before then, I mean, I wrote in, I was a serialist and all kinds of other kinds of music. And I played jazz and rock music. But I would say from my university days, or let's say late university days when I was doing my PhD, it's been this kind of music. And the only thing that's changed is the technology's gotten better is before I used to have to bounce everything down, like hundreds of tracks down to 2 tracks. And it just never worked out. And it wasn't maybe only in the last 10 years I've actually been able to bring to fruition the kind of music that I wanted to do, just because of technology, where I can now put 400 tracks on a computer, and each one of those tracks can be automated and compressed and have its own individuality against the rest of the structure, because that's where most of the problems come in mixing this kind of music. It's really difficult to mix, and your ears get exhausted, let alone the audience. But anyway.
And how does your habitat affect your music? Where do you live, and is it conducive to the kinds of things you do and want to do? Or do you react against it?
Well, yeah, I think things, what's going on in your life does change your ability. Let's say expanding the word habitat into a bigger thing, just what's going on in your life in general. Those things can affect your discipline, your creativity, because basically all it is getting up every day and doing, the 5 hours, the 8 hours a day that you have to do, and like any other job. And if you don't do that, your art suffers, I guess.
And how do you occupy those many hours a day? Are you like an omnivore listening to things, or do you already have a storehouse of all the sounds you'll ever need in your life?
Well, usually when I do a piece, I mean, it takes me maybe half the piece. I don't even work. I work just on the math, and then then you go in and then you start to write some of the music. I mean, also the other thing too is the sampling part of my music is really, it's only maybe 10%, but it just gets layered onto all the other stuff, and you can't really tell whether it's sampling or whether it's me playing or. So that part of it, I mean, there's not as much sampling going on as you think. And then I guess around the time that I'm really ready to write the piece, I start going into the software, some of the latest software that's out, and seeing what it can do, what the signal processors can do, what's the most recent stuff that I can use fairly quickly and get some really good sounds out of it fairly quickly. I don't spend hours and hours and hours looking for that pot of gold patch that's out there somewhere.
Cast your mind back, was it a moment in your life that was kind of critical to suddenly seeing yourself as a creative artist and a musician? Was there a turning point, something you witnessed, a poem that you read, a painting? Was there like that eureka moment when you said, I can do that? That it really blew your mind?
Yeah, it's usually, again, getting back to the idea about what else would I do in life. It usually was when I realized I'd failed a lot of other things, and just the options just got narrower and narrower. And then pretty soon you realize I can only do one thing. So that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, but on the even more positive side of that, was there a piece of music you heard? You I don't know if you heard Stockhouse and the Gruppen and said, that's neat, let me try one of those myself.
It's funny you say that, because I kind of love that piece, but no, I guess I was sort of driven, but just kind of in an ambitious way, but not that I was getting a lot of feedback from my professors or something. Gee, Mike, you should go into music. You really got something going there. They weren't saying that. So I guess it was just sort of, I was driven. I don't know really why. Again, I think it was just it's sort of an obsessive compulsive thing more than I heard Mrs. Solemnis and I went, wow, I got to write that. It wasn't necessarily like that.
Tell me about some of your teachers and what you learned from them, and what advice you would give to the young if they were to follow in your footsteps.
Well, the first thing is get out of music as fast as you can. Second thing, what else? I would say, for my teachers, I guess I come along with my teachers. None of my teachers are kind of known, so it's not like I would say, I don't know, I studied with anyone known. So, but my teachers were all patient and kind. And for young people, I would say, just try and learn as much as you can. I would imagine today there's just because the accessibility of all the things you can learn about, it's probably so overwhelming. But also find something you love doing. I mean, if it's just even some little narrow thing where you're just playing on rocks, that's also a perfectly valid thing also. And
tell us a little bit about your interface with... why do you say get out of music quite so quickly? What are your joys and frustrations with being a musician? Either as a life or as a business?
I mean, I have this conversation with a lot of musicians, especially my age or something, and partially it's the decline of the music business, but I mean that obviously tongue in cheek. I think that obviously music's very rewarding, but you have to find other things. You have to find other things to do, obviously, than composition. Mm-hmm. And which I probably, I should have pursued a lot more at a much earlier age. So I would say, find a good teaching job, or if you're a good player, or, if you're a good hustler, you can promote yourself well, or you produce top 40 or whatever you can do on the side, and then you can obviously write whatever kind of music that you like doing.
All right, speaking of music that we all like around here, we've got a couple of CDs of yours, Nothing Left to Destroy and Trash of Civilizations. Can you tell us a little bit about those and, some of the ideas behind them? Because we'll be listening to some in the background if we possibly can, or at the end or something.
Yeah, I would just turn it on really loud and drown out what I'm saying.
There we go. We can put up subtitles over the noise.
Yes.
Are those typical of your output? Were they exceptional? Were they highlights?
No, they're kind of typical. I mean, obviously, when mixing or making this kind of music, you only learn because they're kind of old pieces. They're at least 15 years old, and I just work on them over a long period of time. And then as the mixes get closer to actually coming to fruition, then I can come up with a definitive mix. So I would say none of those are the definitive mixes or definitive it's kind of like Boulez. He's always working on the same piece over and over again. So really, all those pieces, I'm never totally satisfied that they actually work, but I do have an ideal that one day they will.
And is your faith in the numbers there and the structures and the ideas that you know they're embedded, if only we can practice the hearing of them?
No. I think you have to give listeners, a lot more credit than, I obviously there's lots of downsides to the music. It's kind of overwhelming. It's, and relentless, all those things. You want it to be more of a Mozartian experience where people can go, I could have a cup of tea with this. But it's not anywhere near that. It's not anywhere near that point right now. I'm being partially facetious, but partially, music should be something you put in the background and you go, hey, that's not too bad. But that's this kind of music, you can't really put it in the background. You think there was cockroaches in the wall or something.
Now, these also involve live performers, and how do they tend to react to this world that you're inviting them to join?
Sorry?
How do live performers work with this compositional style of yours?
Well, they sync up. They sync up with the click for the live. We have a live concert coming up in Victoriaville in a couple of days, and we're doing Narcissus off Ballet. That's off the first album on your. And then I'm doing another piece from a John Zorn album called History Lounge. Anyway, so the players, they have clicks, and they synchronize with the tape part. So part of actually even having the live players, like some people do ask me why I even have the live players. Well, part of it is you want the kind of, I want a certain kind of, I want to sort of continuum of the kind of virtuosic Western tradition, and also ideas like pitch, harmony, and all those things, and how those things integrate with tape, basically, or with anything that's on the tape part.
Mm-hmm. And what are you working on next in your musical world?
I'm doing a cello concerto right now, and it's for another album that I want to do. It's a cello concerto, piano concerto, and an unnamed concerto, and that's about it.
Is there something about the concerto format that works well with your ideas? Have you ever considered doing theatre or other kinds of staging?
Well, I've done other kinds of music. Are you talking about just the art music?
Yeah.
Well, no, I would love to write for orchestra or string quartet or anything. I guess I'm just calling them concertos because they usually end up fairly difficult. They're not really traditional. They're sort of concertos, but not really concertos. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know. It's actually a ridiculous thing to call them concerto. I don't even know why I do that. But I partially it's to make the player feel like he's not being drowned out by the music.
And you call this art music as opposed to the other music that you've been making? Yeah,
I do commercial music also, so, which I've been fairly unsuccessful at, but I've been doing commercial music my whole life. To kind of make money on the side.
Are you able to separate those halves of your brain successfully, or do you find yourself itching to do something unique?
No, the commercial part kind of always informs, because you're still dealing with mixing and coming up with good melodies and all the things you might try and do coming up with in art music. So yeah, it does inform. And there's a lot of commercial. What I do is basically a kind of Grogzilla version of commercial music.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, we are kind of amazed and humbled at talking to you and listening to your music, so thanks for telling us a little bit about it today, Mike.
Thank you, Philip. I hope there's enough there to make a video.